Welcome to the SpiritRxPodcast, Ancient Wisdom, Modern Healing. In this place, two healers come together, each walking a different path, yet bound by a common purpose. Dr. Luke, a quantum chiropractor, and Dr. Hummel, a naturopathic doctor. These two practitioners have dedicated themselves to a vital quest to unite the timeless remedies passed down through the ages with the powerful discoveries of modern medical science. For they understand what many have forgotten, that true healing honors both tradition and innovation. Should you wish to learn more of their stories, their practices, or how to walk this path with them, you will find that knowledge in the link below. And now, let the healing wisdom begin.
Today, Morgan Willow, licensed massage therapist. Morgan, we're glad to have you here. Wandering Willow is the name of your practice. That sounds very poetic and very intentional. Tell us a little bit about the story behind it, the philosophy of what you do as a massage therapist.
All right, awesome. Good morning, y'all. Yeah, Wandering Willow, I am the Wandering Willow. I've been here in Ashland for, my goodness, just about 7 years now, which feels like an impossibility. I was nomadic for just about 11 years. I basically either lived in my car or on the work site, doing various jobs. I wasn't doing massage therapy yet. And I wandered the world. I grew up in Indiana. I moved to the mountains in Colorado. I've lived all up and down the coast, and I have met an incredible amount of people. I have communities that have been deepened many different places, many couches to sleep on. And I lived in this place in Washington where we had all of these willow, because there's different kinds of willows. You have your weeping willow, it's your OG. There's lots of willow brush. And the bushes are very amazing to me because one little piece can break off and float down the river and lodge in any other piece of wet soil and begin to grow again. And so there's this idea that throughout my life, I've kind of broken off little pieces of myself, wandered down some river, many rivers, and lodged a piece of myself and grown that, but it's still a piece of who I am. And now I get to be here in Ashland, and I came here to go to the massage school. So shout out to AIM. I love them so much. What a wonderful program. And now I've rooted here. And then you have the Wandering Willow, and the Wandering Willow, she roots, and she's got her own big, beautiful lake. One would hope so, because if not, man, those roots will just go far and wide, and they will find water wherever, including the pipes in your house, of course. Yeah, you better give that girl some water. She likes that. And so it's now I get to root and I get to be deeper in the community here, which is something that I really love and appreciate, because I've been building community by moving, and now I'm building community by staying a little bit more still. But I still get to tendril out. I was cruising through your website, and you actually had a poem that I read that I loved quite a bit, and it specifically talks about the willow and the wanderer. The folly of certitude is the one. Yeah, and I just found a lot of camaraderie in that, and talking about wandering the middle path and being in the gray. And I'm obsessive about it because I think that when you get set on your way being the right way, that you lose momentum. And so the willow is flexible. It's willing to receive new information and kind of be in the new waters. And so in that way, I get to bring that idea into my massage practice, that every person that I meet, we actually bend together until we find the ways in which they need to move and grow. I mean, it's always just it's a moving target. And so we're kind of made to be in the spiral and the flex. Flexible things don't break as easy.
That brings up a thought to me just around the growing willow. So in looking at your history a bit, it looked like you grew up with a nurse for a mom, and spent hours discussing the inner workings of the body. How did that anatomical foundation combined with your exploration of martial arts and yoga and Reiki eventually lead you to massage as your your current calling in life?
Continued curiosity. The body is fascinating, is it not? I love the body. I love the wonders of how it functions. I love people. I love their stories. And a lot of times, people come into the studio and they have a story about their injury. They have a story about their trauma or whatever that is. And I have injured the ever loving bejeez out of myself so many times in my life. I've obliterated my ankles. I've had an ankle surgery. I fell while rock climbing once, and I'm pretty sure I dislocated my fibular head. Really cool. I've injured my sacrum. I used to have like some sort of neck issue when I was a kid. Like, I've gone through my fair share of actually quite a bit of challenge. And by continuing to be curious about my body, having a nurse for a mom who could have these discussions with me, she taught me how to basically do my own research and learn about my body and reach out to people and practitioners and other, professionals who would have a better idea of what I might be going through or how to fix it or how to treat it. And so I kept treating myself. Yoga was the one thing after my surgery. I was very grateful that I had gone through that training, because though I did not become a yoga teacher like I thought I might, it's still a tool in my bag, and it helped me be loving to myself and kind to myself. As post-surgery, that was a new Morgan, a Morgan that had to move slower. Bummer. A Morgan that had to be a lot kinder to herself in regards to, I can't do that right now. I can't hike yet. I can't climb that mountain yet. I'm not as good as I used to be. I'm not as strong as I used to be, and the idea of who I was shaken. My idea of who I was deeply shaken when I got really, really injured. And but it gave me the opportunity to be deeply kind to myself. So I don't know.
Well, I think sometimes the best practitioners are ones who've experienced difficulties themselves, because then they've got a much, much deeper personal relationship with the issues that might show up on the table, so to speak.
Agreed.
Many people think of massage like, oh, somebody's rubbing muscles and making me feel relaxed, which is a great thing. But really,
Yeah.
massage therapy can encompass so much more. Under the umbrella of massage, you've noted that you do some craniosacral and some myofascial release. These are things that may not be commonly known or understood by the public, but they're very powerful modalities. Can you kind of break those down for us and tell us what's so good about those and how that combination of what you do is so effective?
Yeah. Anything is viable, when it helps us feel better, right? And I definitely started off understanding massage as the smashy kind of massage, which is great and it can feel better. But in the world that we live in, particularly within perhaps America, it's the only one I really know because that's where I was born and raised, right? We live fast. We push through. We say that hurt, but I'll deal with it later. We put it in a box. But in my experience, the box just gets fuller, and then maybe the box gets bigger, and then we like stuff it, and then the box gets bigger, and then not only do we have a shoulder issue, but somehow now we're having like stomach issues and digestive issues, and this right hip hurts because the box got bigger, because we never actually opened the box back up to allow ourselves to feel those things, to feel that pain or that emotion or whatever that is. And craniosacral and myofascial go together in the way of emotions and experiences live in the fascia. And they become like, it's like a weird stitch in the fabric that then twists the fabric, and maybe the stitch is right here, but it pulls the fabric all the way from the other side. So you're getting something over here, even though the stitch is over here. Like your heart got hurt, so now it's spreading throughout that fascial matrix. And craniosacral, it does many things. You are actually physically affecting the spinal fluid, seeing where it's stuck within that, noticing where bones may be compressed in the head, which could be because fascia is tight over here in this chest and it's climbed up into the head. It's actually literally compressing the bones. So you have a physiological effect. and craniosacral, we drop into space that lets you feel the feelings. And it's soft. And instead of like the go-go, we actually allow the gel matrix to just breathe and be witnessed like a friend, right? Like a friend goes, hey, I noticed you haven't really been feeling very well. Can you tell me about it? And you're like, yeah, I've been kind of waiting for someone to notice that I don't feel very good. And that feels good to me. So I'd like to tell you about it. And that's my approach very directly within the space, within my studio. Sometimes I ask the question out loud, and sometimes I'm just continuously asking the body, what you need, friend? How can I help you, friend? Because I really I am your friend. I want to be here in that capacity and let you know that anything that you feel and or say is okay. And that you can finally feel them, because then they can get out of the box and they can get out of the fascia and they can get out of your emotional body, and it can calm the nervous system and allow it to feel smooth.
So, Morgan, when you talk about the fascia, which I think is super important topic, some of our listeners may not really know what that means. So, can you explain that on a fundamental level?
Yeah, there's something on YouTube. It's called Strolling Beneath the Skin. And it's a physiological video where they actually put a scope within, and they're actually videotaping the fascia moving underneath the skin as someone is moving their arms around. And it's a matrix of this spider web of snot that's like within the body. I mean, it's like a whole gel matrix that your muscles grow through, your cells grow through. It's super meta. It's all the way from your skin all the way down to the mitochondria. And it's essentially like a tensile structure that touches everything, which means that when we touch the skin and we wait for long enough, we can touch all the way down to cellular structure. It's like a whole interlocking suspension structure, or like a suspension bridge. It keeps us within our shape. I think fascia is kind of one of those magical things that you're like, okay, yes, it's a gel structure. Yes, it does this, but it can like spread out into a fan. It can get little, like a tiny thread. It's kind of a strange little
Right.
gel thing.
From a functional standpoint, I kind of think of it like saran wrap, around the muscles. So the muscles
Yes.
aren't working, they are working individually, but more so they're working as a unit collectively. So even something simple like walking, some muscles are getting more active while the others have to brake. One side, it's sort of like the gas pedal on the brake. In order for the limb to move, one
Yeah.
side has to be doing one action and then have it be measured equally back and forth. There has to be communication then between the muscles. So that
100%.
fascia, it's what you said more than saran wrap. That's a very oversimplistic
So, but that's a
explanation.
good way to put it as well,
Yeah,
because it saran wraps every single little piece of ourselves and then allows the connection within the whole line to happen. There's something called
right.
anatomy trains, which I love anatomy trains. They're so helpful. And there's one that's very prominent that I see a lot in my practice, and it's the one that's like on the bottom of the foot. It comes all the way up the back of the leg, comes up the back, and then shwomp all the way around to the front of the cranium. That's wild. It's like suspenders, fascia, our IT band. Everybody always talks about the IT band. Like, that's a big, beautiful, thick piece of fascia that has actually come out of the thoracolumbar fascia, which is the low back. So you think about the low back having this big, beautiful piece thick of saran wrap that then saran wraps around your legs and even thickens and thins at separate points to create different points of tension to operate our beautiful suspension system of a
Yeah, I
body.
love that. That headache may not all be in your head. It might really be sourcing somewhere else, really far
100%.
away.
Yeah, the sacrum is like one of those main things. People are like, oh, headaches. And I'm like, let's check your sacrum, see if it's got some sort of a little wibbly wobbly thing going on down there, just like your hips work in separate ways. And so everything has to be in the suspension, like it has to be balanced, or else whoop, you see something that
Right.
comes all the way up.
From a pure standpoint, how would you say getting a deep tissue massage is different than a craniosacral session?
First off, pressure, right?
Yeah.
Deep tissue, you're going to be getting that classic, like Helga deep tissue stuff. She's getting like all the way in there. And that's awesome, because your Golgi tendon organs, they really like that. You know, they like that pressure. It tells them to release those things. And so you're getting a lot more physical manipulation within deep tissue. Craniosacral is an absolute light touch modality. You're often just holding places for long periods of time, listening. I'm listening to the fascia, because fascia can move within deep pressure, and it also really likes light listening, because it wants to kind of move in these ways that is like a roll, and maybe even goes in a circle. Like a lot of times I sense a pattern and it's like, okay, we're going in a circle, we're going in a circle, and the circle stopped. And then it releases. And then deep tissue doesn't feel like that. You're still feeling release in muscle, but you're putting the pressure into it to make it happen, rather than the space of listening to allow it to work itself out. A lot of times I've enjoyed this. I've had people at the end of session go, I thought about saying something because I was like, what is she even doing? This seems like nothing. Why am I paying for this? And then I let it keep happening, and then something happens and I feel a depth or I feel a warmth. And then by the end of the session, I stand up, and then all of a sudden, all of my back cracks, I feel completely taller. And I'm glad I trusted the process, but I thought that you were a crackpot. Like I thought that you were just doing nothing until I allowed myself to feel the subtlety of my body. And so that's always kind of a fun little gift to be told.
This past month, I had a craniosacral session, and I literally left my body during that
Yes.
session. I mean, I was there, but I left my body, and
Yep.
some other things on a way out there kind of level also happened. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
profound, the power in those modalities.
Yeah. It's changed my life. I mostly in my life have been a high octane human. I go, I do, I'm always moving. It's like martial arts, all the stuff, right? And when I got injured, it changed the conversation with myself. So when I moved into craniosacral, I began to appreciate the quiet moments. And so I am grateful to have known both sides of a coin, so that I can actually bring that awareness in. Because I was like, we might go to some esoteric places. Like it takes you into the ethers of existence. People have been like, I was tripping, I saw colors, I remembered a memory, and now I process that. And so I'm very grateful to be able to get weird, you know, because I think that we're very cool, strange creatures. We have a lot of levels to get into, and I think craniosacral allows all the levels to really come forth.
One of the things that I say to my patients a lot, which I think can be both a comfort and somewhat disconcerting, which is who you were is not who you are, and who you are is not who you will be. That we're in a constant state of flux throughout our existence. And one of the things that I look at when you're talking about these very subtle changes that you're using, they make a difference and they shift, even though not perceptually like massively, like throwing a giant boulder into the river, they subtly change course. You know, fascia is a
Yeah.
powerful thing. When you make fascial shifts like that, I'll just give an example. This was something I learned in chiropractic school, actually. In SOT, which was sacro-occipital technique, which uses a lot of cranial sacral type of approaches. Let's say a person has a tight psoas, right? And the fascial plane gets pulled and then pulls on the diaphragm for breathing. And we have holes through that diaphragm in which certain large arteries go through there. And that little pressure difference over a long period of time creates turbulence. And pretty soon you get built up plaque and changes along there. A person who does not work with their fascial field and keep things in motion and movement will over time suffer long-term consequences that they would not necessarily equate to that down the road. So you can actually end up with an aortic aneurysm in your abdominal aorta due
Yeah.
to not dealing with your fascial plane earlier in life and going throughout your life. So I just bring that up as a testimony to what you're doing. But let's talk about, because one of the things you mentioned is the energetic and the spiritual aspect to what you do. And let's bring that up. Let's talk about how the Reiki and what you call quantum shifting body reality For someone
Yes.
who's skeptical of like the energetic dimension of body work, what would you say to bridge that gap? Yeah.
Again, I think about it like a friend. When someone's like, what exactly are you talking about? What does quantum shift mean? Because I do get this question from you and other people. And I ask them what their goals are. And then I tell them that I will also hold that reality in my mind and body as we work together. I believe that change is possible. And I think that we just need someone to believe in us, that we can get that 4.0, we can get that scholarship, that we can get that promotion, that we can hike the PCT even though we've never done anything like it before. That you're just like, you know what, I want to hike the PCT. And you're like, have you ever even bought a pair of hiking shoes? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, I know that you can do it. I believe that you can do it. And so that's the quantum shift, because we can create any reality that we want. And many people accept it on the physical level. Thanks for believing in me. I did it. It was hard, but I hiked that PCT. And I'm like, yeah, I knew you could, because you believe that you could. So I believe that you can. And so we take that idea into the energetic of, I believe that I can release the ideology that keeps this pattern of pain happening. I believe that too. I believe I can heal my ankle. I believe that. And so that's how we quantum shift, by talking to people who actually also believe that our realities are possible. You ever talk to somebody and you told them something you're excited about, and you can literally feel the energy leaving your body as you're talking to them about it? Yeah. Ha 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 ha. Because you have, right?
Too many times, unfortunately.
Too many times. It's a lesson that I've had to learn, is a little bit more of tempering of who I tell my truths to, because their disbelief of my truth is actually also very powerful. So I would never want to do that disservice to anyone in my care. So you tell me whatever you think is possible, and we're going to find a way to make that possible, which may also mean referring to beautiful, wonderful other practitioners like yourselves. You know, we need teams. I can't be everything.
Well, that was really awesome. And the work I do touches into some of those realms as well. So I can really appreciate that conversation. Switching gears a little bit. So I know that you do some in-studio work and you also do some mobile work. Let's talk about the differences there. I mean, obviously there's going to be some commonalities, but the location, the setting, what are some pros and cons to both of those settings?
Yeah, it's like the pro to coming into the studio is that there's accumulated energy in there. And it's dedicated solely to the practice. And so I think that it's like Burning Man, you get all these people together who believe in magic, and then like there's magic all over the playa, and it happens. You get any amount of people together who believe that something can change, and so it holds its own force there. And so when you go to people's homes, that's not necessarily something that is accumulated there. And so it requires me to bring it, which is fine. I can do that. I get to be the one who says, we're going to create this thing. And then they believe it. And then we believe it. And then it happens. Some of the drawbacks can just be people not having the understanding of how much space I might actually need. I have put my massage table in places where I am just scooting, just scooching around this thing like, okay, I've massaged in some tiny spaces. Sometimes there's just a little bit more prep work that needs to happen, training people to understand what they need so that I can give them everything that they need. I'm like, oh, we need this much space just so that I can really drop in. And sometimes it's just fascinating being in people's homes. I arrive with all of my professional understanding and knowing, and I will bring what I bring. And I also hold myself back because I'm in their home and I want to know how they want their home to be treated. So I'm always like, all right, we're kicking shoes off. How do they treat this? How does their home look and feel? Some people are like, please don't put any of your things on my couch or my bed. So there's a lot more questions that actually go into, I'm in your home. How would you like me to interact with it so that you feel like I've come in here with respect? Because nobody wants to get treated by someone who comes in their home and disrespects their home. Most of my in-home care is for homebound patients. Some people want like something luxurious. I'll go to Green Springs and stuff like that, which is really fun. But a lot of these are elderly, homebound people I work with all the way through into end of life, stuff like that. So it becomes very, very personal. It's a pretty unique journey to be allowed into someone's home and to witness them, to truly witness them. There's no separation. They can come into my studio and they get to hold pieces of themselves back. But when I come into their homes, they've kind of maybe unknowingly agreed to be more deeply seen. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
You know, working with some of these folks, like you said, like elderly folks who've dealt with a lot of health concerns for a long period of time, I assume you deal with a lot of chronic pain that people have,
For
and they've
sure.
just sort of accepted that. What are like some of the most common patterns you see in the body that people don't realize are connected? You know, like tension in one area, easily driving like pain somewhere completely different. We know we brought that up a little bit, but I'd love to just
Yeah.
hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, I'll touch back into anatomy trains. It's like if I see somebody who has like a headache or like a neck pattern, I'm always, this is why I love fascia, because fascia don't lie. Like it's not moving over here, it's not moving over here. You pulling it over here, you feel it in the hip. And so feet are something that I actually come all the way down to a lot. They tell me tons. If a foot is not moving all the way or flexing in certain ways, I can pull on that fascia piece and it will show me that the pubic symphysis is lodged together. It will show me that the right coxal bone is slightly tilted in one way or another. So I do like to start at feet because it also gives me a craniosacral map. There's quite an energetic map that can happen from there as well. But I mostly see almost how low back drives so much of the neck tension that we have, because what our body kind of wants to do is almost like bend backwards, but we're strong, so we don't walk around like that. Or it wants us to like do like the dino walk, because like this you've seen this like but we don't walk around mostly like that. Although you'll see people who have spent more time on this earth and gravity's kind of winning that battle, as well as like the fascial pattern is winning that battle, and so they do start to walk in certain ways. But the spinal column, because it has so, and like Luke, I know you can like definitely appreciate this, right? It's like any sort of little bit of tension all throughout that spine, it just translates throughout the whole body. So that's part of why I love the craniosacral work as well, because when we can alleviate spinal switchy bitchy, like little weird places that is holding, I actually will just see people just settle into their bodies entirely. So that's why sacral is also really nice to start with. When we can get that sacrum to settle into where it likes to be, a lot of time the body just breathes all the way up.
Speaking of that, you work at the intersection of where that physical and energetic healing might occur. Tell us a story. Tell us a story about a client that you've had where you've had a big shift, either physical, emotional, even spiritual. Tell us something about that. We want to hear a story.
All right, grab a cup of tea. There's many people, but there's one person that's kind of sticking out to me in this moment. And we've been working together for quite some time. And when I first met this person, they were walking in literally kind of sideways with two walking poles. And I started with a lot of structural stuff. I wasn't even into craniosacral yet. We did tons of structural work. I've been seeing her for 6 years now. And now it doesn't need poles to walk, probably 90% of the time. Super cool. Also walks upright, really amazing. But then we kind of hit this wall. We're like, okay, structural work is kind of makes you feel better for a minute, but now we're not getting as many places as we were. And that's when I had begun moving into my craniosacral realm. And because we'd built that trust, she was like, yeah, let's do it, girl. So we start cruising into craniosacral realms. And we get into her chest. She has terrible ocular migraines. And I start to get into her chest and like from the back to the front. And these memories start to come up for her, which she shares. And then we explore the memories. But you're just like asking curious questions. You're like, oh, well, where are you? How old are you? Like, what's it feel like? Who else is there? And you let them lead. No leading the witness. You really just have to ask these questions as they have the information come up, because they are the ones who need to find it for themselves. They'll find their own imagery, right? And she starts to feel this like whoa, 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 whoa. And I can feel it too. And we're moving with it. And there's this huge release. And she describes, she goes through this description. She cries. There's these huge breaths. I can feel it moving through me. It becomes very powerful. I can feel it here. So there's always that practice being like, I am just a screen. We move all the way through. We settle. We're done with the session. She comes out and she just goes, that was worth 7 years of talk therapy. And she came out standing upright. Her shoulders were dropped in. And that's very difficult for her. And she didn't have a migraine for probably about 3 weeks. And again, these are all incremental steps, but that was huge. It was one of the first big responses that I was able to be a part of with craniosacral, and her to be like, man, I have talked about that memory over and over again in talk therapy. She's like, but that actually, I'm done with it. And so I got to see what's possible in this work. How cool.
Yeah, that's a cool story. Thank you so much for sharing that. The concept of having memory being held somewhere in the body other than in the brain might seem kind of foreign to people, but it actually is reality. And it's a reality maybe that we in the West have been a little slow to recognize. Really great book, The Body Keeps the Score. Terrific book that can kind of tie some of these concepts together in an easy to read way. But I love that. And you're right. We can store stuff in boxes. We put it somewhere in our body, a lot of times in the back, but it can be, really anywhere. And so sometimes those memories, especially painful or difficult memories, can be released. We just have been avoiding them. Or we want to avoid pain and move towards pleasure, but sometimes that doesn't, we get lost somewhere along the way when we do too much of that. Sometimes we just have to stare at that difficult thing, go eyeball to eyeball with it, feel it, and then let it pass through. And then, we have more fluidity and we're a better version of ourselves. And we have that big emotional release. It just changes everything in seemingly like an instant. So I love it that you're part of that work and that you shared that story with us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, heck yeah. I mean, y'all both just do some super incredible work. And it's fun to actually have a conversation a little bit with you, because you're a name that's come up several times. People are like, I really think you should meet Kamal. Like, I think you guys like could have some cool conversations. And so I had wanted to reach out to Luke. They're like, oh, get a hold of Dr. Luke. He can connect you. And I was like, okay. And then boom, this request came through and I was like, haha, all I had to do was like, just throw it out there. So yeah, I've enjoyed just checking out how you bring yourself into your practice, because I was cruising through your website and I have a lot of admiration for people who live what they are as a individual person. It seems like you really bring that into your medical practice just through like sharing your poetry and your blogs. And I was like, yeah, man, we don't have to separate. We don't have to be like the practitioner, this like idea of this perfect, all-knowing person that people come to. Yeah, we don't have to be separate in that way. I like how both of you really feel so real and get to bring yourselves. And I think it makes the work more relatable as well as like actually more effective, because people feel like they're on the level with you. Like, we're going to do it together.
True. Yeah, I think this is a great segue, because I'm thinking about how we tend to take things and we put them in boxes, right? In order to understand the world, we sort of divide things and we create this version of reality that is actually not reality, because it's our version of it. But the reason I bring that up is because we've talked a lot about emotional healing and spiritual healing. And I think I would love to sort of segue that into how the nervous system is involved there. So basically, the idea is the nervous system kind of is very central to your work. What's actually happening in the nervous system, right? What's happening in the nervous system when you see these deep releases that you've been experiencing? You could share a little bit about that.
When we are safe enough to experience something that doesn't feel safe, our nervous system learns that it's okay to move through those things. There's other therapies out there that kind of bring you into experiences or heightened states of being like, whoa, and then learning, and your nervous system being like, okay, I moved through that. There was a loud noise. I'm actually totally fine. And, that happens all the time, even throughout our normal day, like a car backfires and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm totally fine. And we tune the nervous systems together to the point where like my nervous system is talking with their nervous system, and I'm just kind of letting them have their own conversation, essentially, having them experience something that feels scary in a way where a friend is with them. So we come all the way back to that friend piece. We all have that friend. I hope we all have that friend that we can tell anything to. Like the things that we think are disgusting about ourselves, the things that we're ashamed of, the things that we don't want to be judged for, the thing that we wish we were strong enough to not need a support for, and so that kind of nervous system stuff where when they can talk to one another and they can feel like they can experience it, then when they get off the table and they move out into the rest of the world, they're actually able to self-regulate more and more and more. We talked to the vagus nerve. I mean, you can actually do manipulations with that or activations with that for yourself and within the practice. Sometimes I hum. It just feels right, it's like to add sound and tonation in with sometimes places that we are to actually tune the vagus nerve physically to receive that vibration. You get into pimp machines and other things like that, and people definitely get into how vibration can heal, which I think is why music is so beautiful, because vibration can heal. So yeah, we're teaching the nervous system that it can feel its things and that it can trust itself. Like it is a trustworthy piece of its own self. I want people to be able to take it with them into the world and not just have to come in to a practitioner to feel better.
That's huge. Teaching to fish.
Well, and
yes,
speaking
teaching the
of,
fish.
yeah, and speaking of coming to see the practitioner, like some people might come to see you, let's say for wellness, like they just every 2 weeks are going to come in and they just want to stay feeling good, right? Or others might have something really going on, or maybe they've had like a surgery or an injury, they twisted their ankle or whatever, and they do want to get more active, like you were mentioning for yourself, even like you went through a kind of a difficult physical time and you weren't active and now you want to be active again. But like describe to us from a person's viewpoint of why they might want to seek a person like you under each of those different scenarios. Like where's their benefit? They might not necessarily think of massage therapist. Oh, I just came out of surgery, for example. I should go see a massage therapist. That may not be a direct linkage in the public's mind, but tell us why that
Sure.
might be a good linkage.
The first thing that comes up in my brain is, we cruise back into nervous system. Maybe you've had surgery, and that's huge. You've been cut open, like rearranged, like put back together, sewn back up. There's a lot of layers, fascia, muscle, all sorts of like blood vessels, connective tissue that it's moved through, and the body, more than likely, is going to seek to protect it, which means that it won't move it. It's going to find all sorts of other ways to move around that injury, which means that you're more than likely going to develop compensation patterns. So you hurt your ankle, so your glutes kind of turned off. So then that means that you use your QL, which is like this fun little hip hiker muscle, to hike your hip and move yourself forward. You're kind of hucking yourself through space. And you don't feel it at first, but eventually like, oh, dude, are you going to feel that? and it's going to be a lot of different places. And you're going to be like, what's actually going on? I like this phrase that one of my patients told me. She said, can't connect the issues, connective tissues. And right. She has Ehlers-Danlos, and so it's like, this is something that we work with a lot, and cranio can be really helpful for her because, when you work with connective tissue disorders, and it goes right into the nervous system. And so a small digression from your question, but it moves into the nervous system, and then the body's like, I'm not safe to move. I'm not safe to move. And so, we reestablish that it's okay and it's safe to move. And so, when you're talking about surgeries, injuries, acute things, everything will have its own level of engagement. I may not be able to use a lot of pressure at first, but maybe I can gently move like lymph and fascia out of the area so that we can get good fresh stuff flushed in there. Old dead white blood cells, get those out. Okay, we flush the new stuff in, helping people's bodies actually go through their biological processes, because, okay, we've hurt our ankle, so we're not as mobile, which means that our lymph isn't moving as much. So we can actually physically help the body's lymph move so that they actually heal faster. When you're talking about chronic conditions, say someone had an injury that they never ever really dealt with, they're like, back pocket in the box, keep going, I got a family to feed. I get it. Those are totally admirable things.
So give us a story. Give us a story from, say, post-surgery.
Tell us a story. Okay, so I got a recommendation from Dr. Luke for a woman, and you also saw her as well, right? So yeah, she's incredible. She went through dramatic weight loss and then went through skin reduction surgery and had full torsoplasty, tucks underneath arms, all the way around the back. We're talking like a 360-degree on the hips. And so we had to start so soft. It was all about lymph. And she did. She had quite a bit of lymph buildup in the very beginning. Those first 6 weeks, I was seeing her twice a week because that is absolutely what needed to happen. She couldn't sit up on her own. We're helping to move her. She's got a compression suit on. There's a lot of moving parts to that. And in no way, shape, or form was she ready for scar work, which can be kind of brutal because, we're breaking up that scar tissue. Because, scar tissue forms fast and hard. It's just like, we got to get this together because we are literally going to split apart. So it grabs it. It does the best job it can. It's a wild spider web. We break that spider web up, and then it can realign. We don't have fascial tissue stuff that grabs anywhere else. So we started with just beautiful, soft lymph movement. And once we got past that, then we started moving a little bit into fascial stuff. And then as more and more healing, and I still see her once a week now. We only have to do once a week now. So the care treatment schedule changes. And eventually, sometimes we just work people all the way out to where we never see them again, and they're just out there in the world doing their beautiful things. But now we're on to scar work. And it's great because she does trust me enough. She'll be like, this sucks. And I'm like, it does. It sucks. I'm so sorry. Like, it doesn't all have to be unpleasant, but some of it's unpleasant. But now we're able to get into that because her body's actually healed enough. We don't have to do lymph stuff anymore because her body isn't struggling with that. So now we see, where are you now? What do you need now? Yeah, it's been a really cool journey to watch somebody come into my office barely moving in a compression suit to bounding down the steps being like, all right, just shucking her clothes off, and she's like, I'm naked, and I'm like, all right, I'm ready. So what a joy to like really witness that growth. It's pretty cool.
So as a listener or a potential client sort of discovering your work for the first time, and I kind of dislike questions like this because it forces you to say, what's the one thing? Because there's usually many and they're all interconnected. But what's the one thing about body work you wish everyone understood? In other words, something that would completely change how they think about their own health and healing.
Just do it, man. It's great. You are allowed to love and care about yourself. And however that looks, whether you get chiropractic or massage or you go get a pedicure, it doesn't really matter what it is, but you are allowed to care about yourself. You do not have to be a martyr. Like, I think that massage work allows us to take care of these incredible avatars. I mean, just like a vehicle, like our avatars do require maintenance. And it doesn't make you any less and or whatever. Like, I think that there's some ideas of like, oh, I don't want somebody to touch me, or I don't need that. And I'm like, you don't have to be in pain to want yourself to feel even better. Yeah, we contain multitudes, and bodywork has the unique honor of being able to address the multitudes.
That was a very, very nice answer. I like it. I like it.
It's like I
Be
get a
kind to
little like
yourself.
lost.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Be
Yeah,
kind
I'm
to
going to go
yourself.
further and say when I was in naturopathic school, I put together what I consider the 9 natural laws of health. And I just released a book, like finally like reviewing those, and there's more information in that too. But outside of that, one of the laws on there that I think makes massage therapy essential is the law of touch. And we need therapeutic human to human touch in our lives. You can get a massage chair that is not going to do the same thing as a human touching you. You can get those robots now that they have that bring their arms down and massage you. That is not going to do the same thing that you do. There's an intuitive, energy to energy, human to human, social to social touch law that exists in nature. And we need to recognize that 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's being seen. It's being seen in all of our glory. And I like that massage can teach safe intimacy, because it is an intimate thing to be touched by another human. I mean, like, and also piezoelectricity. You get into this.
Yeah.
It's like we need the bzz from others. That feedback actually, I mean, we're like bioelectrical bacterial meat bags, but we're so much more than that too.
Well, right. We need another person to complete the circuit, right? Because
But we need a circuit, yes.
you can't tickle yourself. You can try as much as you want, but you need an outside human being to tickle you. And so it's the
true.
same kind of thing. We need that touch from another person. So I love that you brought that up.
It's a great.
Yeah,
We
it's
need to be
social.
tickled.
We need to be tickled. Yes. And like it is in our social evolution to be touched. And it is really good for our health to be hugged. Anyway, just like safe being like, I think safe gets like super overused within like, the massage world. So I like to find other ways, but I'm like, yeah, dude, just like know that nobody wants anything from you just because they touched you or gave you a hug. And I think it's really good to learn how to give and take in those ways and feed our little bioelectric machines.
Well, thank you so much, Morgan. We appreciate you sharing your time and your words of wisdom and your art with us. And we wish you all the best. And we look forward to connecting with you more in real time, face to face, touch to touch.
Absolutely.
And we wish you all the best. And we wish everyone to really explore this concept of massage therapy as a wonderful, wonderful resource. Thank you so much.
Yeah, if you want to connect with Morgan. And Morgan, it's Morgan Willow. And what's the name of your website?
So yeah, Morgan Willow, that's me. Wandering Willow Massage is my website.com. WanderingWillowMassage.com. You'll find all of my information on there. You can call or text me. You can call me. I will really pick up the phone. I'm still one of those people. I love talking to people. And even if you just have questions for me and you don't plan on booking with me, please give me a call. Like, I am absolutely open to free consultations because I think it's important to be able to just feel confident and to have your questions answered. No silly questions.